Hi everybody, welcome to the Campus Suite Professional Development webinar series. I'm Jay Cooper, and today's webinar is how to make your school website PDFs web accessible. Thanks for joining us. I'd like to remind you that a video and slides of today's presentation will be made available, and at any time during today's presentation, if you want to enter a question or have a comment, just use that little comment icon that you see. So again, thanks for joining us, and let's get right to it. Today's webinar is from the Campus Suite Academy, where we help schools learn to communicate better by sharing the training, resources, and best practices using web and digital communications. The Academy is made possible by Campus Suite, where we help schools connect with their entire school community and start engaging like never before. It starts with a great website as your communications hub, and then the tools and services in a single platform that bring together all your school communication. That's all with a team that gets excited about customer service and is always ready to help. All right, looks like we have a lot of folks joining us today. Appreciate, again, you taking the time. A few stragglers coming in, so hopefully they'll get caught up. How to make website PDFs ADA compliant. And who's this for? We've got accessibility coordinators out there, PR communications managers, some webmasters, even a couple of superintendents on board. Again, thanks for joining us. A reminder, a certificate of completion, personalized with your name on it, will be yours for the asking. All you need to do is complete a survey at the end of today's webinar. It's just a short survey, kind of lets us know how we're doing, and also gives us some ideas for future webinars too. So please take, it just says like 9 questions, so if you could take the time to complete that, we'd much appreciate it. Today's agenda, first off, the first chunk is going to be accessibility and ADA compliance, what you need to know, some background, some context for accessibility and ADA when it comes to school websites. And the second chunk, and we'll be bringing in a featured presenter there, Jason Morgan, for this, the way to compliant PDFs. And we're going to review the most common PDF issues, methods and tools to evaluate PDFs, and some good examples. We're excited to offer webinar attendees a new service because all the PDFs on your website need to be ADA compliant as well, in addition to your website. We have this PDF accessibility compliance offered by Campus Suite. It helps ensure all your documents are accessible, and they stay that way as well. Many schools have hundreds, if not thousands, of pages of PDFs on their website. So you got to make sure they're compliant, just like your web pages. So this service covers fixing all PDFs that are on your website and linked to your website. It includes a dashboard for reporting and managing all your PDFs, and an ongoing review and remediation by a certified specialist. So just go to www.campussuite.com/PDFs to learn more about this new service. Okay, let's look at what you need to know about accessibility and ADA compliance. Some backdrop and context. 19% of our population has a disability of one sort or another. And it's not just for the visually and hearing impaired, mind you. It's sight, hearing, many various kinds of physical disabilities and cognitive disabilities in terms of processing. And so that's a pretty good chunk, and of course that's affecting your school community. Furthermore, 8.5% of the U.S. population has a disability that affects computer use, and that could be, again, various physical disabilities, not being able to handle a mouse, for example. Everyone these days, including those with disabilities, is depending on mobile devices to access the web. So, according to WebAIM, which is the web accessibility initiative that began in 1999. It actually stands for Web Accessibility in Mind, AIM. WebAIM is a nonprofit-based organization based in Utah at Utah State University, and so they are the leading organization that's championing and actually developing web accessibility guidelines. So for a school or a school district, accessibility applies not just to students and parents, but really the entire school community, and that gets into your instructors and staff, of course, really any stakeholder. It could be a school board member, suppliers, alumni, the community at large. That could include, obviously, local government, businesses, and your local media as well. So accessibility is not just for the parents that are hitting your website. And in fact, accessibility is the law. It's the ADA, American Disabilities Act, 1991, addressed accessibility in general and was made a legal requirement. Section 508 deals with electronic and information technology, making sure that's accessible to people with disabilities. And then Section 504 deals with any federally funded organization has to comply with these laws. And that includes, of course, a school or school district that receives any kind of federal funding whatsoever in terms of school lunch program or really any kind of funding. So Jared Smith, the Associate Director of WebAIM, he's been a great resource for Campus Suite and our own development of our CMS and web accessibility management services. He tells us that accessibility is not only a legal requirement, but it's good for many reasons. One, it helps simplify design and it encourages good design and development practices. If you think simple and how a well laid out mobile device, for example, or a mobile app, how it's easy to navigate, those same principles apply to websites and, of course, PDFs, today's topic. Accessibility also supports any kind of searchability, internationalization, and of course, mobile-friendly content. And interestingly enough, Jared contends that a website may never ever really be fully compliant. Rather, we should be doing all we can on a continuous basis to make sure that they're accessible. And we have prepared a pretty comprehensive guide, website accessibility guide, that's yours for the asking. Just go to campussuite.com/ADA-guide, and it'll show you how to prepare not only PDFs but your website to be ADA compliant and keep it fully accessible to people with disabilities. All right, a little background. How do we measure compliance? The W3C is the Worldwide Web Consortium. It's an international community that gets together and develops web standards. And it's an organization of host institutions and people that essentially are developing these neutral rules to govern the internet. They came up with things like URL and HTTP and HTML. So they're the leaders. Web content accessibility guidelines. You'll hear a lot about this. We call it WCAG. And these are specifications created from that Web Accessibility Initiative I was talking about. And these are the principles and specifications created to guide good accessible content. And these standards were adopted by the government initially, and then commerce and now education has followed. And essentially what it is, it's a fluid, it's ever-changing set of guidelines to help keep pace with website accessibility. Think of it in terms of what a parking space dimension and ramp requirements are for handicap parking. It's essentially WCAG guidelines or the specifications for web pages, and in our case, today's topic, PDFs, so that everybody can access them. And there are four principles that guide WCAG guidelines, and not to get too deep here, but basically your web content needs to be perceivable, operable, and by perceivable we mean it's made available for sight, hearing, and or touch. Operable means you have to be able to operate the website, for example, using a keyboard only to navigate. Many people, as I said before, can't use a mouse, so using the tab key and the arrow keys, you need to be able to enter and advance. Also, the third principle is understandable. Content and interface need to be understandable and read aloud or seen by some visual impaired, perhaps some assisted technology. And then finally, it needs to be robust, and content can be used reliably on a wide variety of user agents such as AT, or even a mobile device is a good example of one of those one of those agents, if you will. So, accessibility advocacy is being carried out on many levels. The U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights. You may have heard of OCR complaints. The OCR is not really out to bust anybody's chops. It's just an ombudsman of sorts. They've been very aggressive, however, in singling out and pointing out those schools and districts who aren't complying with web accessibility laws. Of course, beyond that, you have other disability advocacy groups. There's groups on Facebook that are calling schools out. There are concerned parents, staff, and students, perhaps within your own school, that might point issues out to you. And then, of course, school boards and administrations themselves are taking it upon themselves to make their web content accessible. And of course, you want to, schools are exposed, if not through civil action, or there's that bad press, that negative press that surrounds being insensitive to those with disabilities. So there's a lot of advocacy, a lot of reasons why your website needs to be accessible. So how do you get there? There's three main roads. You can do it yourself. You can hire it out, but it's not going to be cheap. All you got to do is Google website accessibility remediation. That's a kind of a key term being used, and you'll find pages of companies that will line up to convert your documents, obviously for a fee. What we recommend is a turnkey solution, and that's working with a qualified website service provider and let them handle it all. The right one that specializes in school websites can build one that's fully accessible and make sure all your content, PDFs included, are ADA compliant going forward, and you make them partners and make them accountable for the results. All right, what I'd like to do now is turn it over to our featured presenter, Jason, standing by. Jason Morgan, he's the Chief Product Officer, co-founder of Campus Suite. He's a certified digital communication specialist. He's launched thousands of accessible, engaging school websites in his day. So, Jason, take it away.
Thanks, Jay, and hello, everyone. I appreciate your time today, and I know everyone is busy, so let's jump right in. I plan to touch on these 5 areas that, in our experience working with schools, addresses many of the initial questions website administrators have. Timing and process, common PDF issues, suitable documents, tools for evaluating, and then we'll jump into some examples. First, timing and process. When do you have to have this done? Do you have a current complaint about your content on your website, or are you proactively working to remediate things over your next website project? In either case, you should develop a process of creating new PDFs and educate your team. This doesn't have to be something too complicated, but it should be something that everyone creating PDFs is doing. Will you remove all the PDFs from your website and then add them back as you fix them, or will you fix them in place? Here are some of the most common PDF issues. Images missing their alt text, wrong or confusing heading semantics, that has to do with your H1s, H2s on the pages, missing document titles, language settings not being specified, missing or illogical reading order, that is when they use a tab key to go from one paragraph to the next, or one link to the next, or one menu item to the next. It's tabbing in a logical order, and tables with no defined header. There's other issues too, but these are the most common, and we'll go over some more examples here shortly. Having a standardized process in place at your school will help avoid many of these common issues. So which documents are suitable? Should something remain a PDF or become a submittable web form or static page? Some are so complex, such as physical forms that are only conducive to printing and mailing, and not all documents can be PDFs that are readily readable by screen readers. Tools for evaluating. We prefer Acrobat DC, which is a program you have to pay for, but alternatively there are free tools such as Pave and others. In our support site, we provide our customers videos that show how to use both of these programs to assess and remediate PDFs. Okay, in the spirit of being respectful of your time, let's jump into the process of remediating a few real PDF examples that I've pulled from some of our customer websites. I'm using Adobe Acrobat Pro DC today, and when it opens, this is the default screen it lands on. Let's go up to the Tools menu here and click Tools, and this shows you all of the different tools in Acrobat. And you'll notice under here, under Protect and Standardize, you have the Accessibility tool. I like to take it, just drag it up into my shortcuts here. These are the shortcuts to jump to the different tools in Acrobat, and having it there makes it very easy to launch. Let's go ahead and click that, and it goes into accessibility mode. So here's where you can kind of traverse the different tools in Acrobat, but where we're going to focus today is the accessibility, and this brings out the specific tools for accessibility. Let's go ahead and open up a file, and let's start with a simple one. Here's an example of a document that was probably created in Microsoft Word and then converted to PDF. First thing I do when I open up a document, we'll go to Accessibility, and we're going to do Full Check. Leave all of the defaults in here and do Start Checking. Okay, it comes up over here and it finds two issues under the document category. Let's open that up. So if we open that up, logical reading order needs manual check, and color contrast needs manual check. So if you click on one of these and you right click and do explain, Adobe does a really good job of launching their website and jumping right to that specific item, logical reading order. This looks intimidating, but it does a good job at explaining exactly what it is. So for logical reading order, it says we have to verify this rule check manually. So we simply make sure that the reading order displayed in the tags panel coincides with the logical reading order of the document. If we flip back over to the document, and this is the tags panel down here at the bottom, this shows the different parts of this document. If you click on it, you can kind of see there's the main H1 of the page, there's the first paragraph, there's the second paragraph, etc. So if we click over on reading order, we can see that it applies a number to the order of the items on each page. This is where when somebody presses their tab key, it goes from one to the next. So 1, 2, and then 3 on the first page. When we go down to the next page, it starts over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all of that reading order is fine. It's something that we had to check manually. So we'll go back here. We've checked it manually. There's nothing for us to do. Let's click on color contrast and we'll do explain. Okay, here, and it jumps to color contrast. When this check fails, it's possible that the document contains content that isn't accessible to people who are colorblind. To fix the issue, it tells you exactly where to go. For Windows, which I'm on, click Edit Preferences, click Accessibility, select Replace Document Colors, select Use High Contrast Colors. So let's go back to the document. We're going to go up to Edit, Preferences, Accessibility, and we're going to select Replace Document Colors, and we're going to select Use High Contrast Colors, and we're going to do black text on white. I always do that. We'll do OK. Okay, so we manually checked that. So even if we did a full check again, it's still going to come back saying that we need to manually check it, which we've done. So we can clear this document. All of the other items on this document happen to pass. So there's nothing more to do except save out as our new compliant PDF. Okay, let's open up another example. Close out this. Let's open up the student accident form. Here's an example of someone who just scanned something and pretty much assembled a PDF. So if you look in here, there's no selectable text. A document like this will be absolutely unreadable to any screen reader. The recommendation for such a PDF as this is to be completely recreated, probably as a web page at this point. The only other way would be to reset all of this text, bring in the individual images. You can see they're kind of turned sideways. It's just a very messy PDF, and it's something that should probably be redone. Let's open up another one. Okay, here's another one that was probably created in Word, and we can see that as we can select the text. So it's a good candidate for making screen readable. Let's click Accessibility. Let's do a full check. Start checking. Okay, all kinds of issues in this document too. Here's a little trick that I found when you open up a document and it's just loaded with issues. The first thing I'll try to do is go over to auto tag document. Let's click that. It goes through and auto tags everything. Now let's do full check again. Start checking. Look at all the issues that it's fixed. There was items that failed under here that are now corrected. So we have fewer issues to correct now. Just by auto tagging the document, it was able to go through and correct a lot of things. Let's dig into them. Open up document. Logical reading order again needs manual check. Primary language has failed, so we can click to get details on that. Explain. Document language. To set the document language, choose File, Properties, Advanced. Let's go back into our document. We'll go up to the File menu, Properties, go to the Advanced tab, and you can see where that language menu is blank. We'll select English and click OK. Alright, we'll come back. We'll see that in our next scan. Title failed. Let's get an explanation on that. So for titles, we're really doing the same thing. Select Files, Property, and Description, and enter a title in the title text box. Click Initial View and then choose Document Title from the Show drop-down list. We'll go back to the document. We'll go up to Files, Properties, Description, and it was asking us to enter a title in here, but in this case we just need to check it. But surely we can kind of clean it up a little bit and make the title more meaningful and clear. Then we click over to Initial View, and in the Show menu we're going to change it from File Name to Document Title because we want it to show this document title instead of the file name. Click OK. Let's go ahead and do a full check again and see if we can clear some of this out. Start checking. You can see that those all now pass. Let's check the logical reading order. We'll come over here and click Reading Order. We can see this is all messed up. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need to set the reading order of this document. So we'll start by selecting the first title, and we're going to call that a heading 1. We're going to select the next one, call it a text paragraph. And the next one, we can go ahead and do both of these because we want the screen reader to read it in that order. We're going to do text paragraph. So that is, again, is all together here. We're going to select the next one, text paragraph. Next one, going to do text paragraph. And so this is all together. We're going to select the next one. And we're just telling the document and screen reader what these elements are. Select this and do text paragraph, and finally text paragraph. Now let's go check the order here. 1, 3, 4. Where's 2? Let's go over here to the order view, and we can see all of those items that we just tagged. So there's number 1. If I click on number 2, it's all the way down here on the bottom of the page, and it's actually calling it a figure. That usually represents images, and notice it says no alternative text exists. I don't even want that. I'm going to delete this element, delete selected item structure, because there's nothing there. Maybe there was an image in there in the original Word document and didn't make it into here. At this point, I feel I don't need it in here. I've deleted it. So we'll go back up to the top again. Let's start over. Here's number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. If any of these were out of order, it's simply a matter of clicking it and dragging it to where it needs to be. So if I took health statement and put it down here below number 3, you can see 1, 3, 2. That's wrong. I would bring health statement back up for number 2, and it kind of changes that order accordingly. So the idea is having these numbers in a linear fashion so that that's the order that you know it's going to be read as a user tabs through it on a screen reader. Let's close out this panel and do a full check. Start checking, and now we have it appropriate nesting passed. So this document is now compliant. We'll save it out as our new compliant PDF. Okay, if you're still with me, we're going to do one more, and this is going to be more of a teacher PDF. In this case, this was a teacher newsletter created in Microsoft Word. Maybe it was PowerPoint, but it was converted over into a PDF. Let's just go ahead and do accessibility, full check, start checking. Here we have a title that's failed. We have to check the logical reading order and color contrast. Under tables, we have a summary failed, and we have alternative text for these figures that have failed. So basically these images that are in here are missing alternative text. Let's start at the top. Let's go and fix the title. We'll click File, Properties. We'll click on Advanced. We'll check the language. It's on English. Initial View. We want to check it and always put it on Document Title. Let's go to Description. There's a good title in there. That looks good. Hit OK. That should be fixed when we scan it again. We can right click on it and do check again, and it passed. Logical reading order. We'll come back to that. Let's check the color contrast. We'll go back up to Edit, Preferences, Accessibility, Replace Document Colors, Use High Contrast Colors, Black Text on White. That's good. We'll click OK, and we can actually just go in here and do Pass. Logical reading order. Let's click the reading order pane over here. We can see 1, 3, 2. Okay, this is a little messed up. So let's go to the reading order pane on this side here, and we click on 1. That's the figure. 2. We want it to actually go to the image first, so let's take image 3 and bring it up to number 2. So now it's 1, 2, 3. 4 seems to be way down here at the bottom. We don't want that there. Let's bring what's now 6 up to 4. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. We want what is now 6 to be 5. So we'll bring that up. And we're just adjusting the reading order for these elements. We want this to be 6. So we'll go down to number 7 and bring it up to after 5. So that's 6. And then 7 is the table. Okay, so that's the reading order. Let's just close out of here and do full check again, see where we're at. Okay, logical reading order. We've checked that, so let's just pass that. So we'll close out that section. We'll go into alternative text. We need to put alternative text on these 3 figures. So over here in the right menu, we can do Set Alternative Text. Click OK, and it's on the first image here at the top. Notice that you can use these arrows to go, it's in the header. Now there's the second image, there's the third image. So there's 3 images we need to set this text for. At the top, let's just put EC News April Newsletter. Kind of just reads that top header to a screen reader. Let's go to the next one. That's a picture of, looks like Billy Goat's Gruff. Just describing that image to the reader. Let's go to the next one. Looks like the bee goes buzz. And we'll do save and close. Let's just right click on here and do check again. Okay, it fixed it. Passed all that. Let's close the alternative text field. Looks like on tables we have summary failed. Let's just do explain that. Okay, for summary. Table summaries are optional but can improve accessibility. I would argue that they're not optional. Choose Tools, Accessibility, Reading Order. Select the table by drawing a rectangle around it in the Reading Order dialog. Click Table. That's where we were specifying the headings and paragraphs in the previous document. So let's just go back over to the document. We go into Reading Order. We select the table down here. And we're calling it a table by selecting Table over here. Okay, let's right click on the table and we see Edit Table Summary. So we're just going to call this Week in a View. Click OK. Right click and do check again, and everything passes under tables. Okay, I hope it wasn't too painful for everyone, and I hope it gives you an idea of what's involved in evaluating the various PDFs around your campus. I mentioned earlier that if you establish a process for your publishers to follow, you can avoid a lot of these accessibility issues in the first place. In most cases, if a document is printed to a PDF out of Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, Acrobat does a pretty good job of keeping things mostly compliant. So a standardized process at your school may just start with showing people how to properly export their documents to a PDF, and then keeping them simple, avoiding multi-columns and extraneous elements and styles that may otherwise need some additional correction after the fact. Again, I appreciate your time today, and I'm going to hand things back over to Jay to finish out the webinar and collect your questions. And Jay, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Just to review and summarize, your school, if you're like most, your school likely has a ton of PDFs. We've done our surveying and research. Some schools have thousands and tens of thousands of PDF pages. So it's important that you recognize these most common PDF issues and ensure the document has a document title and that the language is specified. There's double check that the reading order of the content is set up correctly, that it's logical and not missing anything. Ensure all images have alt text describing them. Otherwise, when somebody who has a disability gets to that image, and they need to be able to have alternative ways to know what the image is depicting. Use succinct descriptive language. This goes to naming your document titles, also through all your headers, and even just the body copy itself. Make sure it's all descriptive, but certainly when it comes to naming your files, you want to make sure it's very descriptive, and people can tell from a quick review of the title and the headers and the subheads, what they're getting into. And you make sure you mind your headings and making sure that you have at least one H1, and don't be skipping, as Jason mentioned, don't be skipping to H3. Make sure if you have an H3 that you've got an H2 as well. And then when you create new PDFs, or try to avoid using tables, no defined headers on tables. That's a common problem. So make sure you actually, tables is a whole other animal in itself. So you want to make sure when people navigate through the table that you can find what you're looking for. And as Jason says, garbage in, garbage out. And really, you want to step back from it all and ask yourself, should it remain a PDF or become perhaps a form or a static web page? Some are so complex. It's just might be better not to have it as a PDF. So, set some priorities, develop a timeline to educate your team, and determine how a plan of attack, whether you're going to remove all the PDFs at once or just take the popular ones, the most accessed ones first. So it's a lot to consider. I'd like to also remind you that Campus Suite offers a managed website accessibility service, as previously mentioned, and it features ongoing scanning and reports and all the support and training you need. So you can go to campussuite.com/accessibility to get back to that. Regardless of where you stand in your PDF remediation process, if you don't have at least a policy in place, you better get one soon. So that's really your first step, is to implement a school website accessibility policy. And I'll show you how to do that real quickly and easily in just a second. But once you have that in place, you want to promote that policy through other school communications. And just don't let it, for example, reside on your website. And to get your very own accessibility policy in place and up and running, simply go to campussuite.com/policy. We have a downloadable template. All you need to do is fill in the blanks and you're ready to go. And it's important that we emphasize that really simply having a policy is really your first step. You don't have to, you don't have to totally, trash your website or all your PDFs. Make the step. It starts with that policy and communicating that policy to your school community. For example, you want to make sure once that policy is in place on your website that you include it in your footer, which occurs on every page, so people can always get to that. So in closing, you want to partner with a website accessibility specialist that can help you with auditing your website, identifying and fixing your issues, providing the right solution and tools for you, monitoring and assuring compliance, and provide all the training that's necessary for not just you, but all your web contributors so you can keep your web content compliant going forward. And in terms of educating your colleagues, I'd like to remind you or show you about this infographic that's free. You can educate your school community, help bring focus to the importance of accessibility. Just go to campussuite.com/infograph to get that. And I'll remind you that the free download of the website accessibility guide is yours. Just go to campussuite.com/ADA-guide. And we have a few questions have come in while we were presenting. And I'd like to see where we are here. We got Michelle's got a question here. 1 second, Michelle. I see. She asks, if we can't make a document compliant, do we have to take it down right away? Well, according to WCAG guidelines, you're required to take every effort to make your website documents accessible as possible. And so converting the content to a web page as an accessible format is an option, as is providing an alternative way, like a dedicated email address for maybe you have an accessibility coordinator or a phone call. So you don't have to take it down right away, but again, that policy, by having your policy in place, it's kind of a way to cover CYA, if you will. So it's a good start. Don't just start pulling stuff down, important documents down, without having an alternative way to whether you're fixing them or have an alternative way to access that content. Thank you, Michelle, for that question. Damien asks, what are the software options for checking PDFs? Well, Jason talked about two primarily. The Acrobat Pro, obviously Acrobat, they're the standard bearer of all things PDF. So Acrobat Pro DC, I believe, is an option. And also there's an open source tool you can use, the PAVE scanner, P-A-V-E scanner. And I believe that was developed by WebAIM Group, or maybe not, but it's been around and it's free, and it's not as robust as the PDF as the Acrobat version, but check that out. Damien, I hope that answers that question. Mimi asks, when you're referring to H1, H2, and H3, are you simply referring to the order of headers? Yes, that's the process of the heading order as it relates to page semantics. H1 suggests the main, most important heading. H2 would be the secondary, and of course H3 would be the less significant header info. But it's important you follow that process when you're putting your headers together. We got time for one more. Gretchen asks, this is an easy one, is there somewhere we can find a sample website accessibility policy? Well, yeah, go to campussuite.com/policy, and you can download a free one there, and in minutes you can have your school district's policy finished and in place. So again, thanks for those questions. Any that we didn't get to, we will get to and follow up with you and get your answers to you. So a reminder that the Website Accessibility Education Center is a great a compendium of content, all things accessibility. Just go to campussuite.com/accessibility-center. All kinds of videos and guides and downloads there. And reminder, too, that your certificate of completion will be en route to you within the next couple of days. All you need to do is complete this post-presentation survey. It'll take just a minute to complete. It's really good feedback for us. Let us know how we're doing and give us ideas for future webinars. Again, thanks to Jason, and thank you for joining us, and we'll see you at the next Campus Suite Academy webinar.